There is a supernatural world, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. You'll hear stories about this and so much more right here on Supernatural Confrontations. Today we're going to be talking once again about someone, a woman, Natasha, who comes on the record right here on Supernatural Confrontations, talking about her experience with, drumroll please, a Ouija board. Nothing to be playing around with. And the fact that they continually manufacture it. You know, by the way, I called the manufacturer. Actually, I emailed them, and I did get a response, and then, of course, they went silent. I'll talk about that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor, Noble Gold. And before I get into that, folks, I want you to know that I've invested some of our hard-earned money into Noble Gold because I just believe with the uncertainty that's going on here, it's good to have precious metals. You have to make that decision. I'm not telling you what to do or, you know, but I did it myself because I think it's a smart move. Put some of your assets in precious metals. Anyway, we'll see you on the other side of the break. All right, folks, is investing in silver today a good idea? Colin Plume from our friends at Noble Gold thinks so. We had Colin on the show last month, and the reason why I did this, you know, they're a trusted sponsor, but I've invested my money with Noble Gold. A good portion of the cash that we had on hand, we converted into precious metals, and I'm not telling you to do anything that I'm not doing myself. Okay, so on the national desk, Colin explains there had been a huge sell-off of silver because of its low price right now. Silver is the most useful industrial metal out there, and demand is soaring for electronics and electronic cars, solar panel circuits as the green agenda begins to speed up. As industries pick up after the pandemic supply chain issues, the trend down should reverse quickly and silver may rocket. Now that's, you know, he doesn't have a crystal ball, nor do I, but it certainly could go up. Folks, don't miss this. Give the team at Noble Gold a call and join thousands of others, including myself, who've taken advantage of this blip in the market. They'll guide you through the process and make it easy for you. And this month, you'll get a stunning free 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin with a qualified IRA of $20,000 or higher. Folks, you can't go wrong with Noble Gold, and that's why we've put our money in with Noble Gold. I believe it may be the safest place to put your cash right now. Call the team, 877-646-5347, 877-646-5347, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Folks, tell them L.A. Marzulli sent you. So as I was saying earlier, before I bring Natasha on, I actually reached out to the manufacturers of the Ouija board, and one of their PR people emailed me back and then went completely silent. Maybe I'll read that to you because it's sort of a nothing burger. They just, once they figured out who I was and what I was after, why are you still manufacturing the Ouija board? Dead silence. So things are controlled. You can't even get an answer. You know, you can't even get an answer from the people that make it. The Ouija board, in my opinion, and I'm not, you know, if the manufacturer wants to make it, it's their business. You know, they can do whatever they want to do. But as an American citizen with a First Amendment right, I have the right to speak out against it and say this is a gateway and a doorway to the demonic realm. So here's my interview with Natasha. I think you'll find it interesting. I'm here with Natasha. Thank you so much, first of all, for coming on the record. Folks,
my pleasure.
Yeah, the supernatural is real. There's no doubt about it. And people experiencing stuff. And that's why we do the show, Supernatural Confrontation. So let's start off with the Ouija board. You had an experience with that. How many years ago was that, by the way?
So the Ouija board experience was when I was in middle school.
Okay.
So the middle school age. I was living with my grandmother and grandfather at the time, and I had some girlfriends over for a sleepover, and we lived way out in the woods, so it was a good 30 minutes from town. The Ouija board appeared in my room mysteriously. Nobody knows how it got there.
Wow.
Um, my family owned a whole bunch of acreage. So there was my grandmother whom I lived with, my great grandmother, and my great uncle. We all owned a lot of land. So there wasn't a lot of neighbors. There were no neighbors around. So it's not like somebody could have dropped it off. If,
Hmm.
somebody was coming out there because they purposely were coming out. You can't just stop by. But I asked everybody, and nobody knew who put it there. It like nobody. And I was like, okay. So fast forward to when I was in middle school, I had my friends over and, we were just, mess around doing girl things. And we started playing with the Ouija board and I'd played with it prior to that. And so I was telling the girls at school that, I could get the little lancet would move on its own without me even touching it.
Wow.
If I could concentrate, hard enough. And they were like, no, it wouldn't. So obviously I had to show them. And so they came over. They didn't spend the whole weekend because they ended up getting scared and leaving, but we played with the Ouija board for a while. Then we also did that game where you go into the bathroom and you shut the door, you look in the mirror and you go Bloody Mary, and you do that like 3 times, and you do that kind of thing. So we did that. Then we did this thing where you do light as a feather, stiff as a board. So it's me and 2 girls. One of them lays down and they put 2 fingers up underneath the person and they say light as a feather, stiff as a board, and the person is supposed to lift up off the ground, right? So apparently I got about like 2-3 inches off the ground, and my friends realized I was like really levitating, and it scared them, and they screamed and brought their hands back, and I come bedding down onto the ground, and that kind of freaked me out because I didn't think that I was, doing that. So needless to say, that kind of scared them, and they end up leaving and not coming back. I end up moving around, and I eventually put the Ouija board in the fire. My great grandpa had a burn pile because we were clearing raw woods, and he had a burn pile. And so I took it and I threw it in the burn pile. And when I did, there was just this crazy, just loud, unhuman scream that came from it. And it was so loud, I covered my ears like this. And my grandpa Country was standing next to me, and he kind of looked at me, and I looked up at him, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "You didn't hear that scream?" And he was like, "No, you heard something though." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it hurt my ears. It was so loud." But he didn't hear anything. He didn't hear anything.
Wow. Let me ask you something. So obviously at this time, you're dabbling in witchcraft. You're doing stuff that and I get it. I mean, people do this kind of stuff, especially young girls. They seem to be, and I don't know how old you are. I don't need to know, but I know that you didn't have TikTok when you were in middle school. They've got
No,
TikTok now, and these kids are looking at it and they're accessing stuff. And you can get spells online. I mean, it's like
you
right in
can.
your face. So it's not like when you grew up or when I grew up. I mean, I played with a Ouija board, but I was like 17, 18 years old when I did, somewhere in that area. And it freaked me out because we contacted something and it was all too real. And we went like this. We threw the board up and we ran out of the house. There was like a white wall. There were 3 of us sitting at a table. So Cliff was here, Michael was here, and I'm on the end. So it's 1, 2 like this, and there's a wall here. The Ouija board's like this. We've got our hands on, and we've contacted a demon. What's your name? And it spells out Astaroth. At the time, I didn't know who Astaroth was. I wasn't a Christian, and we kept doing this. And after like 5 minutes, this white wall, there was a black hole in it, which got bigger and bigger. And we saw this, and that's when we completely freaked. We ran outside. And then we did the same thing. We burnt the board.
Right.
This stuff is real. So other things. Let me ask you this: Did this experience throwing that Ouija board in the fire? Did that bring you to Christ? Did that finally bring you to the Lord? How did that happen?
How did I come to the Lord? So, I I've known the Lord all my life, and the prayers of the grandmother. So my great grandmother on my father's side, as soon as she knew I was conceived, she was praying for me. And as soon as I came out of the womb, she was there with the Bible going, in the beginning, God created. And my parents would go to divorce because they were only 15 and 16 when they had me. And they would divorce about 2-3 years after that. So I would spend the summers with my father, the summers and holidays with my father. And because he worked, he needed childcare. My great granny Margie would watch me. And so she would take me from Genesis to Revelations every summer. So he was like have you seen the movie War Room, Miss Clara? So if you go Google clips of Miss Clara in War Room, she was a Pentecostal Miss Clara. She was retired when I am in my youth, and so she would spend set X amount of hours aside for Bible study. She would have hours set aside for worship, and when she worshiped, she would hear music no one else did because she would be dancing around and just praising the Lord, and she didn't care who was watching. And then, she would set aside time for prayer. So there was worship, there was study, and there was prayer, and she made that a priority. And she poured that out on me. My first encounter, knowing that it's really real, was when I was 6. I was sexually abused, and when I was, the Lord took my spirit from my body. And so I have 2 different memories. I have a physical memory, and I have like a spiritual memory. And my spiritual memory, the Lord said, all that, this is happening to you. And he emphasized my body. He's like, it's not happening to you. And he emphasized, my spirit.
That's
and he explained it to me so simply. He said, just like an astronaut needs a spacesuit to conduct business on the moon, you have to have that meat suit to conduct business on the earth. And just like the alien would walk up to the astronaut on the moon, the alien would think that the astronaut is the spacesuit, but he's not. The astronaut's in the spacesuit, just like this clump of DNA. It's not who I am. It's just the body that I'm using while I'm in this environment, but it's not who I am. And so from that point forward, I've been in love with the Lord, and 6-year-old mind being in the, being in the presence of the Lord, it's amazing. It's love, peace, and joy in its most purest form.
Let me ask you this. Whatever, there were other things that happened to you. Tell us about those things.
So I have a lot of them. I remember when I was in my grandma's Pentecostal church, and the pastor did an altar call, and there were people up there, and I didn't know it at the time, but they were being slain in the spirit. And the Lord, the pastor was praying over and touching them, and they would fall over. And I was like, that's a bunch of hogwash. Why are these people falling over like that? And, I was probably 7, 9 years old. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go up there, and I'm not going to fall down, right? So I go up there, and I'm talking to the Lord, and I'm like, these people look crazy, all falling down. I don't know what's wrong with them. And so I get up there, and my great grandpa is right behind me because he's one of the people, catching the people on the stage. And I remember the pastor, he had his hand up and he was praying for me, and I'm watching him as he do it. And as he got done, I remember saying, I was like, I can't wait to see the look on his face when he touches me and I don't go down, right? And so he touched me and I went out. I was out. I came to, and I'm laying on the ground with my grandpa with this big, huge smile on his face looking down at me. And I was like, oh, did not expect that. And I was like, that was another, I was not going down, but I did.
There you go.
And I knew, it was another way the Lord showed me that, that he's real.
Yeah, and I've had the same experience, very similar, but I was much older than 7 or 9. And I was in a place called Tulare in California, a little private church. I mean, the church probably held no more than 30 people. And we walked in because we had heard that the Lord was there. We heard this. So we drove, 3 hours to get there. And we finally got there. We were early. The church was closed. So when we had dinner, we came back. And I remember opening the door and looking at my friend and going, it's like a tabernacle. You could you could see the presence of the Lord. You could feel the presence of the Lord. And I went up determined, to these people who were praying over people, that I just wasn't going to fall over. And they prayed over me and they touched me. And I was in control of my spirit. I was much older than you. I was in my 40s. And I didn't have to go down. I could have stood there, but that's not what the Lord wanted. And when I went down, he did some things. I was out for a few minutes, and I had a vision, which I didn't understand until about 2 weeks later. And it was amazing. That experience changed my life. It changed my thinking of who God was. It went from a God that crushed me under his thumb, with how's that feel?
Painful, yeah.
Yeah, to this wonderful, incredible Father who was leading me and guiding me into what I'm doing now. But you had other experiences. Let me just go
I
there.
have a lot of them. And one thing that I forgot to put on my form is I was born with 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Okay.
That's a family trait. One of my sons has it. And he was actually in daycare, and they made me like a Mother's Day flower with his 6 fingers and 6 toes, turned into a flower. So I definitely cherish that. But my son had it. I have it. My mother, my grandfather, and then I don't know who else.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, some people are looking at this 6 fingers. Oh my God, that is a genetic trait which is passed down. It has nothing to do with the Nephilim, although the Nephilim, some tribes did have 6 fingers. I get that, but you're not Nephilim, and I just want to clear that up. But so you also had an experience with levitation. Does that go back to the Ouija board? Is that what that? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so, that was all at the same time.
Okay, so then you had experiences with shadow people.
And, I did.
Yeah, and I've heard stories like this. People are in a room. Usually they're asleep. They wake up and there's like a shadow person in the room. Tell us your supernatural confrontation.
So it's been about 16 years now. There was a time of about 6 to 8 weeks where almost every night, 3, 4, 5 times a night, I would dream that I was being raped by a demon. And each time the entity would take a face, or of different people I know. Sometimes it was faceless. Sometimes it would be Hollywood version of, of what Satan would look like. And they're sneaky because it's like they start me in the middle of what's going on. So when I come to, when my dream starts, I have to figure out, get my bearings, what's going on, where am I, type thing. And once I get that, my next step is to pray. And that's usually, where it ends. But by that time, they've already downloaded everything that they wanted to. And when I would wake up, I do not sleep on my back. I'm a side sleeper, but I would always be on my back, and I would be crying. My pillow would be drenched with tears, and I would open my eyes, and I could see that there would be like people that would be above me, and as I could start to move more, they would come out of my peripheral vision. So like when I first wake up, they're like right above me, but then as I'm coming awake, they move out, and the more I can move, they get further and further away. That happened, like I said, just about 3, 4, 5 times a night for 6 to 8 weeks. During that time, also my husband woke me up one night, and he was making choking sounds while he was sleeping, and he was grasping at his throat, doing this thing. And so I had to, wake him up. He was having a dream that he was being choked by a demon. And so
let me break in here. There's all this demonic activity that's happening to you. What do you attribute that to? Any idea?
I do. The Lord told me what it was. I mentioned in my email, I have lots of dreams. And one of the dreams that I like to go back to that he keeps bringing to mind is that one of the demons, he's sick of my crap. Because when I pray that not only does their attack backfire 100-fold, that also more people now will be saved because of their effort of even trying. Wow. And so, I'm not defensive, I'm offensive. It's my heart's desire. It's my heart's desire to set up a rescue shop right in front of the gates of hell. So, and in that dream, it started out, my arm was up like this, and there was a demon that had my arm, and we were standing in front of a slaughterhouse. And there was 2 doors, and they opened. And I was there literally because one of the head honcho demons was really sick of me just messing everything up, and he was going to kill me and eat me. And, it was a butcher. The whole thing was, just a big butcher shop. I could go into details if you'd like, but
okay.
But that's what it is. I think they're, I'm not defensive. I'm offensive.
So how did you finally break this connection that went on for 6 or 8 weeks?
I reached out to my pastor and his wife, and I told him, because that's the first time anything like that really had ever happened. And I reached out to them. I told them what was going on, and they said that you need to pray about it. You need to ask for forgiveness, ask God to close any doors that may have been open. Just do a good get right with the Lord. Do a good soul clean. Do a good housekeeping. Make sure there ain't nothing in there that's not supposed to be in there. Right. And after I did that, they stopped.
So there was obviously something going on that we don't need to know what that is, but there was some door that somehow got open some way.
I think that was the time that I think they were trying to deter me maybe from really leading into the Lord, because it was at that time that I went from having a lot of head knowledge of the Lord to it moving to my heart. And so I think they knew that, I get my battle gear on, I'm going to be David on the battlefield. I'm not the army in the mountains.
There you go. So I want to circle back to the Ouija board thing with the levitation. So there's 2 girls, there's 3 girls all together, and you're laying and they're holding you like this, and you actually start levitating. So, and that totally freaked them out. So there was,
it did.
I'll just tell you a story. When I was with the guru, I did not see any levitation. What I did see was this Mahatma, a holy man, we were walking on the beach in Malibu, and he had just come over from India, and he couldn't speak any English at all. And so we went down to the beach. He wanted to go down to the water. So we took him down to the water. There's about 3 or 4 of us, and then this Mahatma. A Mahatma is like a holy man. And he was an old guy. He was like in his 70s back then, and very high up in the organization. Okay. This guy was like an adept. And he was wearing, the typical saffron robe type that you see Buddhist monks wear, but he wasn't a Buddhist. He was a Hindu, but under lots of meditation. And he communicated with me telepathically. He took off his upper clothing, so he was just in his not a bathing suit, but like his leggings type of thing. And I just was staring at him, and all of a sudden he just said, "Hold these." And it was in my mind, and he just went like this and smiled at me. So he went into the water, and he came out, and we dried him off, and he dried himself off, and got dressed, and we were walking down the beach. I'll never forget this. There was like 4 of us, 5 of us walking down the beach with the Mahatma. In a flash of an eye, he's 50 yards down the beach, and he turns around and looks at us like this and smiles and continues walking. And we all just went, "What?" He bilocated like that. So, I mean, I share that story because, levitation, someone will go, well, maybe they're just girls and they really don't know. But when a person taps into the dark side, all sorts of stuff happens. Another story would be during the abduction phenomena, which is our shameless plug, but our fourth film, which I'm working on. I got a lot of work done on it today. But people who are abducted are levitated off the bed and they go through the window or up through the ceiling or through the wall. And that defies the laws of physics as we know. So, I thank you for coming on the record. Fascinating stories. And obviously, you did the right thing by burning that Ouija board. I'll give you the last word.
So the last word I would have to say is that for other people out there who have experienced this, are experiencing it, and will be experiencing it, because I've had 2 people come into my life within the last month that have had dreams for the first time, and it's been life-changing for both of them. And I want to say you're not alone. And share your story, because there may be that one person who thinks that they're alone and they're not going to say anything, but if they hear you talk about it or hear you say something about it, well, then that gives them the courage to go forward. And I'd have to say that if you're not being attacked, you need to figure out why not. If they're not attacking, regrouping, then you better figure out, because time is short. The Lord is coming back really soon, and, make a fool of yourself for Jesus. Who cares if they think that you're crazy? This is life and death. This is eternity.
Well said. Well, Natasha, thanks so much for coming on the record. And folks, if you have a supernatural confrontation, please shoot us an email at supernatural@lamarzulli.net. Thank you, Natasha. So there you have it. And I promised you I would weigh in on that. And tell you about a story that happened to me with the Ouija board years ago. I was 17 or 18. We were over at Cliff's house, right across from Conestoga High School, where all the hippies would meet, all the artists would meet, all the people in rock and roll bands would meet. And it was just this gathering of people that were we called ourselves the Free Idea. So we were young and full of hope. And that's decades ago. But Cliff and Michael and myself were up in Cliff's room playing with the Ouija board. So as I remember, Michael was here, Cliff was here, and I was here. So, and then here's the wall. So the wall is there, Michael's here, Cliff is here, and I'm on the end. And our hands are on the Ouija board, and it's moving. And I'm going, did you move it? And Cliff's going, no, I didn't move it. Michael goes, I'm not moving it. Are you sure? We just laid our hands on this thing, and the planchette is moving around, and we ask it, who are you? And it spells out the name Astaroth. At the time, I had no idea who Astaroth was. Of course, now we know. This is one of the Canaanite gods. It's in our Bibles. It's Nephilim City, Nephilim Agogo. Not that Astaroth is a Nephilim, but it's all part of Hell's Kitchen. The wall, which was here, all of a sudden, the room got very cold. There was a black hole that began to open up in the wall. And we totally lost it. We freaked out. We picked up the Ouija board and threw it, ran out of the house. And we were, it took a while before we calmed down. Needless to say, we never, ever touched the Ouija board again. So going back to Natasha, here she is. She's doing the Ouija board stuff, and things are happening. And then, they do the levitation thing. You see, when you invite these spirits, and you're 3 young girls or whatever, or 3 young boys, but the demons just love to get in there and suck you in and get you involved. They will manifest. Things will happen. There's no doubt about that. They want to lure you in. And so here she is, these 2 girls, with fingers like this, and she begins to levitate. The girls totally freak out, completely lose it, and they're hysterical. Who wouldn't be? Because they're experiencing something that they should never experience. It's not from the Lord. It's not from the God of the Bible. It is, in fact, cooked up in Hell's Kitchen. And that's why we're told to stay away from this. We're not equipped to deal with this stuff. Folks, if you're got a grandmother that doesn't know any better and is giving your kid a Ouija board, throw it out. Burn it. Burn it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. It is a gateway to the occult. Watch out what's going on places like TikTok and other places where you can now get spells online. Witchcraft is being promulgated. Why is this happening? Dare I say, because the church doesn't really do its job. I'm part of the church. It grieves my heart that the church is so asleep. Not all the churches are, but many of them are, and won't deal with it. Folks, the supernatural is all too real. It's manifesting in ways that I've never seen. Check out our UFO report. Remember, our new show on Thursdays, Questions with an S, questions at lamarzulli.net, questions at lamarzulli.net. I'm answering questions live here. I'm going to try to get a set up. We'll see what happens. I've got room in the studio here to build another set, and kind of a short notice, but I'll see what I can do before next Thursday. Today is our last day of the pre-sale for our UFO film. Check that out, folks. Number 3, Close Encounters. The stories are riveting. We're working on number 4. I am actually roughed it out to minute number 40. 40 minutes are roughed out on number 4 on the abduction. I have watched it. I watch it every day because I add things to the timeline, and at the end of the day, I watch what I've done and see how it's flowing. I know these interviews. I filmed them, and I'm watching this thing going, oh my gosh, that's how visceral it really is. Number 4 is off the hook. It really is. And it will be available probably late November. But number 3, it's the last day of the pre-sale, then the prices go up. Think about it, folks. You know what? Your pastor probably has no idea about the UFO phenomenon. Will he watch the films? I don't know. But it'd be great if you got all 3 of them. Why? Because UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. It's Friday. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much for your patronage. Make sure you hit the little subscription button. We're trying to get over 200,000 before the first of the year. I think we're at 163,000. That's a tall order, but it could happen. Anything's possible. Thanks so much for subscribing. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks for supporting us by getting our DVDs and books and other things. I will not be at the Hear the Watchman conference in Laurelville. Unfortunately, I just had way too much on my plate and I had to cancel, but I would highly recommend that you go and check out. It starts tonight. You can go to hearthewatchman.com. I think John Adam, our producer of the show, will be, editor of the show, will be putting up that little poster there. Sonda Allison will be there. Vicki Joy Anderson, of course, she's our first author in our stable. With a great book. They only come out at night. It's on sleep paralysis. They will both be speaking there, as will Derek Gilbert. So please go check it out. Hear the Watchman, hearthewatchman.com, hearthewatchman.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. Remember, the supernatural world is real and surrounds us. And sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. Thanks so much for watching.
They got their knowledge from the heavens.
He saw it, said, whoa, that's a UFO.
This orb comes up and it's bright orange.
I'm not wanting to make full eye contact with these things. But from what I did see, when I did look at them, they're like they're soulless.
It was right directly above us right here, and then it started tilting and moving up like that.
All of a sudden I was being lifted about 3 feet off the ground.
It was going slow. I was walking right underneath it.